Please note that when we are saying that the aggregate demand curve is downward sloping, suppose initially my price level was P0, which was corresponding to a output level or GDP level of Y0. Now if when price level is going up from Y0 to P0 to when price level is going up from P0 to P1, what we are saying is the drop in this drop in GDP from Y0 to Y1 is composed of three things. One is this is because of the wealth effect, this is because of the interest rate effect, and this is because of the exchange rate effect. Now please note that this portion which I am saying, it is not the fall in consumption but the fall in GDP, which is brought about because of a decline in consumption. And when consumption declines, the impact on GDP will be much more governed by the multiplier. Okay, and similarly my this portion is my decline in aggregate demand when investment falls. And again please note that this is not the fall in I, this is the fall in Y caused by a fall in I taking into account the investment multiplier. Okay, and this is the exchange rate effect, which again tells when my exchange rate is appreciating how much aggregate demand falls or GDP falls. Okay, so please keep that in mind when we are discussing about the slope of the aggregate demand curve. We will discuss more of it in the classroom. Now what can bring about a shift in the aggregate demand curve? See, if price level goes up or comes down, we will move along the aggregate demand curve. Anything other than P, anything other than a change in price level which has an impact on C, I, G or NX will cause a change in GDP at the old price level. Okay, now you can appreciate it better if I consider, suppose this was my initial aggregate demand curve. Okay, the price level was P1 and output was Y1. Now what is happening, suppose government increases its spending by say from G0 to G1, which because of multiplier has an impact on the GDP. Okay, so what we are saying, when government spending increases, output or Y changes, and we are saying that the price level has not changed, so this old price level now corresponds to a new output level. Okay, so this what that would this would mean, this would mean a parallel shift of the aggregate demand curve. I'm just taking one point so that the diagram is not cluttered. Now if you want to take another point, you can also do that. So this is P2 corresponds to Y2. So government spending increases the GDP at all price levels. So now the new GDP is say Y3, this corresponds to Y3, and this corresponds to Y4. So earlier the output consistent with price level P1 was Y1, which is now Y3, and earlier the price level which was P2 consistent with output level of Y2, now at the same price level we are getting a higher GDP of Y4 because we have said prices have not changed. one of the determinants of aggregate demand, because aggregate demand was equal to C plus I plus G plus Nx. So when any component of the aggregate demand changes, the curve will shift. So we will move from AD to AD1. The curve has shifted to the right. Okay, we will see some more factors which bring about a shift in the aggregate demand curve as we proceed with our discussion.